Welcome to the University of Chicago. Welcome to our graduating students, but equally to you parents, grandparents, uncles and aunts, siblings, friends, and I acknowledge the many not able to join us today, but whose thoughts and hearts are with us. Friends and family of our graduates, I honor you for your sustaining investments of love, support, expectation, tuition, room and board, books, snacks, and care packages, especially during those most recent and most strange of pandemic years. Thanks for the gift of your students. My name is James Evans, Max Pilevsky, Professor of Sociology, Director of the Computational Social Science Program and Knowledge Lab, and faculty here in the College at the University of Chicago. My wife, Jeannie Evans, and I are resident deans over the houses in which your students lived during their first years at the university. And the gorgeous white building designed by famed Chicago architect Jeannie Gang, which now forms the northern gateway to the University of Chicago campus. We are delighted to have some of our resident heads, the graduate students who lived alongside your students in their first years here with us today, reading your students' names and presenting diplomas. So to begin a little roll call, who of our graduates here today are from Dugan-Nicholson House? And who from UN House? Who are from Boyer House? Thank you. And who are from Bihar House? Graduates, I honor you for your diligence in completing tests, projects, papers, bibliographies, the preludes to a diploma, but more for who you have become and what you will do. I live here, and I want to let you know what a privilege it's been to live and raise our young children here with your students. It's been a gift to see your students' minds at work, asking tough questions of former university provost and current president at our home about the state of the university, the ethics of global investments and local developments, at the center of earnest online discussions about policing and race in these troubled and difficult times, or watching and then debating what actually happened in the Coppola film, The Conversation with English professor James Chandler and his wife. I have also seen your students' imaginations at play, sneaking to the airdrop of safety in a homemade full-body ghillie suit that looked exactly like you Chicago shrubberies in Humans vs. Zombies, the week-long campus-wide tag game each quarter, or composing a Nintendo-themed opera at the Scavenger Hunt, the largest in the world, or in my spring class projects on existential threats and the world history of computation. I've also seen the quality of their hearts. While organizing service in the community, or trick-or-treating for disadvantaged Southside youth, or tutoring youth in math, health, and finance in underserved Chicago elementary and high schools, I've seen a few of your students struggle and stagger under the weight of personal tragedy and make noble decisions about their families, their health, and their future. I've seen them support one another, sometimes all night or days on end, sometimes at great personal sacrifice. And I've seen their creative ambition to lead, create, heal, and solve the problems of their world, stretching to do more than they thought possible in the service to a dream of impact and influence. Graduates, I honor you, and I join you today as you once entered to learn alone, now go forth to learn together. The University of Chicago is a special place. It was built in the tradition of the great German universities of the 19th century and exceeded them as a place where ideas and imagination were respected above all else. It is a place characterized by meta scholarship and meta study. Meta means about the thing itself. Faculty and students from the University of Chicago often attempt to see their subjects from an outside perspective instead of from within, by playfully recombining ideas and technologies to forge new vantage points and theories. This is caricatured by my favorite University of Chicago t-shirt logo. That is all well and good in practice, but how does it work in theory? If something works, why? If something works, why? If it does not, why not? And how could it be remade or reimagined, which tendency turns on itself to pose meta-level questions about the nature of knowledge. Despite the abstraction and meta-ness of an education at the University of Chicago, there's always something larger at stake. Ultimately, the hope and confidence that our flights of imagination will form blueprints of the future, and that stores of the best ideas will always be drawn upon in times of greatest need. In the words of psychologist Kurt Lewin, there is nothing so practical as a good theory. I study the nature of collective knowledge and innovation, and how we think and what we know together in science, government, civic discourse, and the world as a whole. In the world of swirling mis and disinformation, how can we better come to know and act on all that we know? How can we know more together? In your classes, you have almost always been tested and graded alone. For most of you, that will never happen again, because in this world, ensembles rule. In 1907, Sir Francis Galton, cousin of Charles Darwin, published a strange article called Vox Populi, the voice of the people, in Nature magazine. A geneticist and eugenicist who expected the average person in the population to regress to a population's average capacity, Galton was interested in identifying and fostering elite intelligence in the population. But what he found at a regional fair surprised him. At the West of England Fat Stock and Poultry exhibition, an ox was presented, and 800 attendees purchased the pass, the chance, to guess the animal's dress weight. The person closest would win the meat. Individuals participating were from all walks of life: farmers and butchers, ox owners, dealers, and veterinarians, all with an interest in the prize. After the competition, Galton gathered and analyzed the guesses. The actual weight of the ox was 1,198 pounds, and the average guess was 1 pound less, 1,197 pounds, closer than any single expert, a phenomenon now popularized as the wisdom of crowds. The fair's elite members were each limited, but the fair itself had the most collective experience and insight. It knew more together. As we leave the season of artificially independent work, what are principles of collective knowing that can allow us to succeed under challenging and changing circumstances? What can help our families, teams, companies, congregations, cities, governments, and the globe heal our wounds, succeed together, and know more? First, be kind. Walter Pitts left a dysfunctional home to arrive homeless at the University of Chicago in 1938. At the age of 15, he came to meet visiting logicians Bertrand Russell and Rudolf Carnap. Pitts had taught himself logic, math, and several languages, including Greek and Latin. And although he was not a student, he introduced himself to Russell and Carnap by giving them copies of their major works annotated with devastating critiques. Russell offered him to study in England. Carnap got him a menial job so he could stick around and study with him in Chicago. But it was Warren McCulloch, a warm and open-hearted psychiatrist with massive hair and a wild beard, who came to Chicago in 1942 and brought Pitts into his home. Pitts was still homeless 3 years after arriving in Chicago. McCulloch was interested in how the mind worked and how it used the brain as its hardware, as he described. Through their intimate collaboration and collective genius, together, Pitts, McCulloch, and friends proposed landmark theoretical formulations of neural activity that merged cognitive and computer science in formalizing the first neural networks, the basis for modern artificial intelligence. Second, listen. Anita Woolley, Alex Pentland, Thomas Malone, and others published the results of a very interesting experiment in Science in 2010, revealing evidence for a collective intelligence factor in group performance. They tested individuals and groups on hundreds of problem-solving tasks and found no relationship whatsoever between individual intelligence and collective success. What predicted collective group intelligence? 1, the tendency for group members to listen. 2, a pattern of group members taking short, roughly even turns in conversation. And 3, the proportion of women, because women were so much more likely to listen and take short, even length turns. Thank you. These groups knew more and could act on more of what they all knew, and what they all knew was greater than what any one of them knew, because these groups had diverse talents and lived experiences. Third, revere difference. In a recent study of millions of Wikipedia contributions, I measured the political ideology of contributors and found that more politically diverse groups between conservatives and liberals and associated debates strongly predicted higher quality articles. This insight underlies this wisdom of crowds idea, where people with diverse data and approaches are more wise than those with shared backgrounds. In biology and medicine, I've demonstrated that when research papers use the same methods, cite the same prior research, share many of the same authors, they are much, much less likely to replicate than those with diverse methods, expectations, and people. I'm now leading a team that makes this social principle to design diversity, generating diverse artificial intelligences with dramatic improvements, doubling the rate of discovery in hundreds of energy-related materials and pharmaceuticals that we've explored. These models simulate researchers that know combinations of things that no human knows because of how we've carved up science and education. Difference is important not only because you may be the only one right. In these times of racial tension and conflict, we must not only protect but reverence difference. Difference yields surprising insights that enable us to grow in unpredictable ways. To those who don't like you and do not share your values, to seek their happiness and be wide open to their best ideas represents an extreme celebration, sacrament of diversity. And fourth, celebrate failure. In a recent paper in Nature, we demonstrated that the best signal of future success in business, social movements, and science is an acceleration of your own failures. The most successful entrepreneurs and inventors, from Johannes Gutenberg to Thomas Edison to Marie Curie to Steve Jobs, were also some of the biggest, most persistent failures. A top salesman at IBM entered the executive offices after having lost $5 million on a project, expecting to be fired. Tom Watson, then CEO, countered, "Why would I fire you? I've just spent $5 million on your education." I advise many of the world's funders of innovation that failure is always correlated with radical, punctuated advance. Charles Sanders Peirce, the great American philosopher of the 19th century, defined a reasoning process he termed abduction, responsible for the vast majority of new developments in science, business, and government. It is the train wreck of deduction and induction. First, we reason about the world. Then we experiment, observe, or act on a reason. If we surprisingly fail, discovering we were wrong, then we, typically the diverse others to whom we are connected, imagine alternative possibilities that make the surprising unsurprising. To make something truly new and wonderful requires a disposition not only to tolerate doubt, confusion, and failure, but also to be willing to let others claim the glory. When I was a young graduate student at Stanford University, occasionally, when someone else had a good idea, I was tempted to hate them for it. I wish that I had had it instead of them. But then I realized that their ideas are mine. I received the idea through them, and they too are mine. Giving them the glory, I knew more. Who is the happiest of men? Asked Goethe. He who values the merits of others, and in their pleasure takes joy, even as though toward his own. No, others' joy is our own. Others' thoughts are our thoughts. Your time at the University of Chicago has been important, I hope transformative, but your education in the world and your contribution to the world's education begins now. Sociologist Werner Somberg and economist Joseph Schumpeter detailed a process they called creative destruction, where new innovations in capitalism made old skills and capacities obsolete and useless. Almost all of the research about where novelty comes from, however, proposes a companion process that I'll call destructive creation, where disorder and discord yield the unexpected contrasts that hungry minds consume to make new things. Kindness, listening, and celebrating diversity and failure, you enter the maelstrom of today's global marketplace in an era of warring nations, but with creative confidence. Such a person won't fear for a job, they forge new jobs. And when you consider a new relationship, craft a new skill, assemble a new institution, or assuage an alien mind, our vast universe knows more. Greek philosopher and priest of Apollo, Plutarch, described education not as the filling of a pot, but the lighting of a fire. The facts that you've learned here in Chicago will grow old and become obsolete. Hopefully you will make them so. But the knowledge of how you can catalyze reaction with others, that can turn your differences and failures into explosive potential, an engine of innovation, is something you will never lose. Here at the University of Chicago, I see the spark. Today, graduates, I charge you to go and ignite the world. Everything depends on it. Thank you. We will now hear from one of our distinguished graduates, Inji Sarur, who is graduating with a BA in Neuroscience, a Health and Society minor, with plans to join her parents and older brother in the medical profession. Inji.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Inji, and on behalf of the class of 2022, I'd like to welcome family, friends, staff, alumni, and faculty. Thank you for being here today. I stand here before you, looking back on 4 years of hard work, 4 years of growth, along with some sweat and tears, 4 years of fun, and yes, we did manage to have some fun. And now we're looking back at the legacy we've all built together here at the University of Chicago. Thinking back to September 2018, it was O Week, and we all were getting to know one another until we got on both feet and found our place on campus. And now, here we are again, gathered together, but only to part our separate ways. It isn't without each and every one of you that my college experience couldn't have been more memorable, and I'll always be grateful for every person I ran into and every person I had the slightest interaction with. I'll miss all the intellectual and thought-provoking conversations I'd had with my housemates at 2 a.m. on the 11th floor study room of Duke and Nicholson, including our heated debate that lasted weeks about which cereal mascot was the most good-looking. And of course, how can I forget about the time our housemate put a kettle on the stove and almost set the dorm on fire? Yes, that was D-Nick's doing. I'll certainly miss the heated Mario Kart competitions that we took so seriously. And most importantly, I won't forget how wonderful it was living within the same dorm as you all. It is so great to see all of these familiar faces here today after all these years. Look at where you were and where you are now, because that's what matters most. We turned our challenges into opportunities, and I can confidently say that the majority of my accomplishments and happy moments I've gained at UChicago initially started as a challenge. We must never stop learning and seeking knowledge and the willingness to put ourselves out in the most uncomfortable of situations. The grind truly never stops, and UChicago makes that very apparent. On a personal note, I'd like to especially thank my family for supporting me throughout my college career. Coming from a high school graduating class of 11 students and coming out to Chicago, the transition was not easy. At a time when I felt I didn't belong, my family went above and beyond to help me get through what would be the hardest part of undergrad. I thank my hero of a mother for being for me literally any moment of the day. When she couldn't dry my tears in person, she always found a way to comfort me over the phone. Thank you for never failing to include me during any religious holiday or birthday. I still won't forget the time you sent me a box of baked cookies after you sensed how upset I was knowing that it would be my first year not having them. Even though I received a box of crumbs, I couldn't hold back my tears because the thought was what mattered the most, and those crumbs in that box meant the world to me. I no longer cared for the cookies. My mother gave up her job as a physician to take care of me and my 3 brothers, and in my eyes, nothing could top that sacrifice, so I felt I owed this one to her. I needed to make her proud. After all, my success was her success. I thank my boss father standing over there for working day and night around the clock to make sure he was able to provide for his family and help support my dreams and future aspirations. My dad worked day and night at the ICU COVID unit throughout the pandemic. I wouldn't see him for weeks, but I knew for a good reason. I look up to him for saving so many lives every day and to somehow manage to still be there for me anytime I needed a laugh from him. Finally, I'd like to thank my 3 brothers for always giving me the pep talks and keeping our sibling group chat alive with the best of memes and jokes. To Yahya, my 11-year-old brother, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot right now, and I know you'll hate me for it. But thank you for being the most exciting part of any FaceTime call of the day. Your cuteness never failed to make me want to stay on the phone for hours with you. To Kareem, You just knew exactly what to say and text me at the right times. Your random messages and selfies always kept me cracking up at my lowest times. And Omar, I don't know where to begin, but let's just say that you put up with me the most these past 4 years, despite the fact that you were busy with your own work in medical school. Omar was quite literally a gift sent to me in college. I remember the week leading up to my first set of autumn quarterfinals, I was not doing well. I felt I let my mom down when I was crying to her over the phone, repeating that I will not be able to last in this school. I felt lonely and homesick and just needed someone to comfort me. I woke up the next morning to a phone call from my mother telling me to pick up my package at the front desk of North. As you all may remember, we couldn't simply pick up packages unless we received that email telling us it's been processed. So when I told my mom that I would just go down once I got that email, she got all annoyed and was like, "Inji, just go down, I know it's there." After forcing myself to get out of bed, I made it to the lobby of North to find that my package was sitting cross-legged on the couch with a smirk on his face. My mother sent me my brother. It's our time to celebrate our graduation, our victory, the result of our hard work. I take so much for granted, and one of it being that I failed to realize that each of us got accepted to this university because each of us had something unique to offer that no one could ever possess. Thanks to our school for polishing our uniqueness and making us proud of who we've become. And this is what we are here celebrating today. The uniqueness we brought to the university and what we're going to do with it moving forward. Even though we'll now be taking our separate ways, I can't wait to see what we all offer to the world we live in. Thank you all, and congratulations to us, the class of 2022.
Thank you, Eugene. Now we will hear from Voices in Your Head, the University of Chicago's award-winning a cappella choir. Stand up and come on up. After years away from in-person public singing, we constructed the choir from the ground up. The choir made it to the finals of the International Championship of Collegiate a cappella, the competition made famous by the Perfect films. We have members from Campus Northeast, and we'll be singing Sing for Myself from their award-winning performance. Voices in Your Head. Thank you. Voices in your head. Resident heads of our houses, graduate students who live next door to your students will now read their names and deliver their diplomas. For graduates from Bihar House, the names will be read by Lucas Matillon, the PhD candidate from the Harris School of Public Policy, resident head of Bihar. For graduates from Boyer House, the names will be read by Daniel Owings and Emily Berkman, a PhD candidate in the Divinity School and social worker in Chicago, former resident heads of Boyer House. For graduates from Dugan Nicholson House, the names will be read by Christina Alvarado Fernandez and Joe Stodolnik, resident heads of Dugan Nicholson House. And for residents from UN House, the names will be read by Micah Kamoy, University of Chicago Law School graduate, former resident head of UN. Bihar.
Congratulations all. Team and Christina send your love. So let's start. Kiran Bakonen, Computer Science and Chemistry. Rebecca Burrell, Political Science, Public Policy, and Environmental Urban Studies. Ita Caroline, Economics. Connor Michael Cassidy, Mathematics. Elizabeth Carol Cron, Environmental Science. Camille Elizabeth Dago, Molecular Engineering. Shramay Dwawan, Economics. James Mitra Doucet, Computer Science and Mathematics. John Falk, Economics and Romance Languages and Literature. Margaret Rose Fitzpatrick, Geophysical Sciences and Chemistry. Chloe Cecile Fong, Neuroscience, Education and Society. Hannah Beth Fretzin, Neuroscience and Psychology. Rory John Gates, Creative Writing, Political Science, and International Relations. Devorah Ben-Wally Goldstein, Neuroscience, History, Philosophy, Social Studies of Science and Medicine. Chi-Tian Hu, Economics and Statistics. Peyton Alexander Jefferson, English Language and Literature. Nicole Caspi, Economics and Psychology. Karan Kanan Kayan, computer science and mathematics. Ethan Usher Lewis, mathematics and statistics. Turana Maddock, economics and philosophy. Isabel Marie Maletic, public policy studies. Tyler Rose Mundrell, psychology, comparative human development, and social sciences. Maximilian Marcus, economics and biological sciences. Madeleine and Mudrick, economics and environmental urban studies. Nina Marie Myers, mathematics. Celine Nguyen, economics and classical studies. Abi Marie Cuba, computer science. Sophia Agri, public policy. Gracie King, economics and English and creative writing. Dylene Reynolds, economics and molecular engineering. Jude Rosen, physics and quantum information science. Ruhi Sa, computer science and English and creative writing. Angel Eduardo Salazar, economics. Alice Saparov, biological sciences and data science. Yasmina Osborne Sekic, mathematics and architectural studies. Andrew Schildkraut, history, philosophy, and social studies of science and management. Elizabeth Grace Shaw, biological sciences and public policy studies. Nona Soriel Sobo, physics and molecular engineering. Claire Francis Stephens, public policy studies. Meiji So, economics and statistics. Yael Sokin, computer science, media arts, and design. Krishnan Tadi, economics. Rachel Lynn Tehar, Neuroscience, Health and Society. Jonathan David Teen, Neuroscience and Psychology. Robert Vincent Vale, Public Policy Studies and Physics. Melanie Walton, Psychology. Runfei Yan, Economics, English Language and Literature. I'm going to hear from Boyer House.
Remy Adekunle, Economics and Philosophy. Nathaniel Alizar, Public Policy, Political Science. Shreya Bansal, Computer Science. Monty Bishuna, Computer Science, Creative Writing. Catherine Sontake Boggs, Psychology, Statistics. Natalie Bourand, Neuroscience. David Benjamin Brandt, Economics, Religious Studies. Sophia Tsao, Economics, Biological Science. Grant William Carstandra, Economics, Astronomy and Astrophysics. Arthur Lincoln Chow, Economics and Statistics. Subin Choi, Economics, Psychology. Jesse Ezequiel Contreras, Biological Sciences, Neuroscience. Jacob Holden Feingold, Biological Sciences. Graham Edward Fraser, Economics. Oliver Green Halperin, Physics, Molecular Engineering. Zhongying He, Economics, Statistics. Ayushi Upendra Hegde, Biological Sciences, Romance Languages and Literature. Kathleen Mary Heller, Biological Sciences, Environmental and Urban Studies. Damon Anthony Hines, Economics, computer science, visual arts. Henry Harrison Huang, economics, creative writing. Jin Huang, political science, economics. Rachel Joy Hudson, economics, computer science. Lucy Claire Jeffs, economics. Yujia Jin, computational applied mathematics, computer science. Alexandre Labossiere Barrera, economics, architectural studies, computer science. Megan Sung-hee Lee, biological sciences. Zheng-yi Li, economics, statistics. Yudong Liu, economics. Amy Anai Maldonado, sociology, data science. Caroline Marie Miller, neuroscience, psychology. Rocco Sergio Molinelli, biological chemistry, astronomy, and astrophysics. Daniela Julia Morgan Pascuarvaca, economics, biological sciences. Liz Munyampirwa, computer science, computational applied mathematics. Lane Christian Painter, economics. Priya Jamin Patel, public policy studies, critical race and ethnic studies. Matthew Reagan Prezzuti, economics. Brett Hayden Riegler, economics. Kyle Thomas Rourke, molecular engineering, molecular, cellular, and tissue engineering. Dila Shashmaz, economics, statistics. Catherine Daly Scoobies, biological sciences, gender and sexuality studies. Miles Julian Spencer, neuroscience. Esteban Silva, mathematics. Gabrielle Hannah Smith. Political science, English language and literature. Jingchuan Song. Mathematics, neuroscience, theater and performance studies. Leanne Pearl Strother. Economics, East Asian languages and civilizations. Wesley Suen. Economics, biological sciences. Kevin Sun. Economics, classical studies. Daniela Valverde, statistics. Alexis Christine Vitiello, biological science. Calvin Richard Walters, economics, statistics. Anyi Wang, economics, statistics. Elizabeth Winkler, English language and literature, creative and writing. Joshua Wang Xu, economics. Xinchang Xu, economics. Kelly Tingna Zheng, economics, political science. Anna Aixuan Zhou, neuroscience, psychology.
Graduates from Deating House, I congratulate you, as do Robert and Esther. Hatun Basim Attar, economics. Jack Severio Capizzi, history and political science. Jorge Navarro Castillo Branco, economics. Yate Hugo Chen, computer science, economics. John Francis Delaloy III, history, philosophy, and social science, social studies of science and medicine, Romance languages and literatures. Austin Grace Dellinger, law, letters and society, human rights. Elliot Francis Dupree, economics, Romance languages and literatures. Noor Tariq Al-Masri, data science, philosophy. James Hunter Fasati, economics. Alexander Matthew Francese, economics. Bethany Sonia Gedzelman, Biological Sciences, Public Policy. Alexander Vitaly Gushpa, Economics. Eduardo Hauser, Economics. Kevin He, Economics, Music. Nicholas Emmett Holden, Mathematics and an MS in Computer Science. Lally Johnson, Economics, Inequality, Social Problems, and Change. Lance Allen Johnson, Economics, Astronomy, and Astrophysics. Amisha Kapoor, Economics, Political Science, Human Rights. Zeb Joshua Kent, Computer Science. Peyton Craig Lane, Economics, Public Policy Studies. Jin Jun Lee, Computer Science, Mathematics, MSc Computer Science. Xinyu Liu, Computer Science, Mathematics, Economics, Statistics. Jonah Constantine Moore, Economics. Alyssa Morgan Mosley, Psychology. Bogdan Musinik, Computer Science. Bianca Munguia, Sociology, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. Leva Hansen Price, Creative Writing, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. Naomi Shear, Psychology, Theater and Performance Studies, MA in Social Sciences. Dina Prasad, Economics. Brady Austin Ryder, Visual Arts. Jason Scott Rosenbach, Economics. Uday Saharia, Computer Science, Economics. Gabriel Dick Shore, Philosophy, Political Science. Nicole Ashley Sergiwa, Biological Sciences. Ryan Shea, Molecular Engineering. Abir Singh, Economics. Inji Khaled Saror, Neuroscience, Health and Society. Caleb Hurst Sussman, history. Luis Felipe Velasco, economics. Nicole Faith Willing, comparative human development, biological sciences. Thomas Reppin Warwick, economics. Karen Yuan, biological sciences. Alan Zhao, computer science. Jared Zucker, fundamentals, issues and texts, theater and performance studies.
Congratulations, UN House. Jake Stanley Apple, computer science, mathematics. Yair Atlas, philosophy, physics. Aida Basij, economics, romance, languages, and literatures. Fabian Bick, environmental and urban studies, architectural studies. Tabitha Bishop, neuroscience. David Jonathan Cho, biological sciences. Abigail Choi, statistics, economics. Alexander Chuang, mathematics, linguistics. Eleanor Victoria Citron, history, human rights. Christian Doucette, computer science, mathematics. Anya Edelstein, economics, media arts and design. Sean Michael Ennis, public policy studies. Hong Yi Feng, economics, with a master's degree in social sciences with a concentration in economics. Sophia Fisher, economics, statistics. Mateo Garcia, economics, political science. Adina Gray, public policy studies, romance, languages, and literatures. Yunshu Hu, economics, mathematics. Lainey Hughes, political science, philosophy. Harry Kagan, economics, philosophy. Audrey Kaus, Economics, Romance, Languages, and Literatures. Jonah K., Computer Science and Fundamentals, Issues, and Tests. Brandon Kim, Political Science. Justin Lee, Chemistry. Akshay Modi, Public Policy Studies, Political Science. Marcus Motter, Philosophy, Economics. Chi-Yoon Ni, Economics, Statistics. Jacob Ohana, Economics. Kevin O'Sullivan, Biological Sciences. Giovanni Palmer, Economics, Psychology. Lauren Park, Sociology, Health and Society. Aubriana Ramsland, Biological Sciences, Biological Chemistry. Bethany Regnieris, Biological Sciences. Mason Rodriguez Rand, Molecular Engineering. Jacqueline Rosa, Political Science, History, Human Rights. Jack Silver, Economics. Yoon Chang Song, Physics, Computer Science. Sergey Sonkin, Computer Science, Statistics. Aaron Steiger, Astrophysics. Hannah Subramania, Neuroscience, Health and Society. Zachary Wang, Computer Science. Yichen Zhu, Computer Science. Yifei Chen. Computational and Applied Math. And if he were with us today, I know I would have read the name of Matthew Riccardi.
And from Bihar House, Eugenia Lee in computer science. And Anna Julia Zenig-Zeisler, public policy. Congratulations all.
Okay, the diplomas have been given, and the hats, some of the hats have been thrown, and some of you can turn your tassel if you have one. And the parents have cheered, and it is my privilege on behalf of the University of Chicago to send you forth. I charge you to elevate and reimagine and build, and we hope you visit us at the University of Chicago. Our hopes fly with you. May you plow every failure into a success, and we will be watching your progress. The world depends upon it. So until we see you again, congratulations, graduates.